What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and this weekend was kind of a stinker. The football games weren't fun, but things still happened in the fantasy football world, and that is what we are here to talk about today with my top 10 lessons learned from week 8 of the fantasy football season as we look forward to week 9. This is where I go over all of the stats, data, usage trends, the rookie receiver report, the rookie running back carousel, everything you need to know to save you time from scrolling box scores and articles and Twitter threads, and just get everything you need to know from the week in the fantasy football world all in one spot. So with that being said, we're going to recap everything that happened here from week 8 as we look forward to week 9. If you enjoy, leave a like, subscribe if you're new. And the first takeaway and lesson learned from week 8 is going to be the rookie receiver report. Now, before we actually get into the rookie receiver report, let's make sure we're all on the same page of what is not at stake, but a note on rookies moving forward. We're now hitting the point of the year where some of these guys are going to emerge as real league winners. This is something that we would show the entirety of the offseason, right? When we look at 16 or more points per game from week 9 on, right? We just had weeks 1 through 8. Now we look forward to week 9 on. Since 2010, we have had 21 rookie wide receivers average 16-plus points per game from week 9 on. That has been OBJ in 2014, Elijah Moore in 2021, Mike Evans. So you have like some big dogs, right? OBJ, Mike Evans, Justin Jefferson, Michael Thomas, but you also have some guys off the beaten path that kind of came out of nowhere, like Elijah Moore and Amon-Ra St. Brown. People forget as well, OBJ was like hurt for the first half of the season. Like we are still anticipating some of these guys coming out of kind of nowhere. Brandon Ayuk was a late season surge guy. Rashee Rice. You have Jaden Reed on this list. And we can see at the top last year, if we look at points per game from weeks 1 through 8 and we compare it to week 9 plus, Brian Thomas was at 15.5. He then finished at 17.8. Ladd McConkey, 13.1. He then was at 16.6 down the stretch. And then someone even like Jalen McMillan, 5 points per game. He finishes week 9 on with 15.1 points per game. Right now, if we just want to look at some rookies, we have Egbuka at 15, McMillan at 12, Hunter at 9, Golden at 7, Burden at 5. Can any of these guys emerge? And that's kind of what we're going to talk about as we look through the rookie receiver report. And I do want to add here that Ryan Heath had a really good note on this idea that it's not even so much like the day one guys, like the first rounders and the studs. So I wouldn't expect Egbuka to go from 15, 16 points per game to like 20 plus points per game. It's not quite how it works. It's really more so those second and third round and fourth round, fifth round, etc. type of guys who really turn it up down the stretch as they run more routes. This is from Ryan Heath here. Here's every rookie wide receiver over the past 4 years to average 12 plus points per game in the second half of the year. You'll notice most of the guys with the largest boosts were the day 2 and 3 picks who weren't immediately in full-time roles. Most day 1 guys play immediately for a decent baseline. So you can see Elijah Moore with a huge jump. Amon-Ra St. Brown with a huge jump. Tank Dell with a huge jump. Jalen Waddle, like a decent jump, even though he was a first rounder. So still there's hope, but you do see like Jamar Chase, Puka Nacua, and Malik Neighbor, some of those guys who were true studs out the gate, regressed in points per game. Now, why I don't think that Egbuka is going to regress is because he's had a rough 3-game stretch here where I think that it's almost going to inflate things where this last 3-game stretch has been rough, so now he's back down to like 15 points per game. And then I think after the bye, he'll go back up to like 18. And that'll be like a jump, but you know what I mean. With more nuance, it doesn't quite look like that. So with that being said, let's get to the rookie receiver report. Let's talk about Emeka Egbuka. As always, the rookie receiver report, the world-famous rookie receiver report, is sponsored by Underdog. When you use promo code RON and you play $5, you will get $50 in bonus funds on Underdog. You'll get a gimme pick'em on the pick'em lobby. You can check out the Battle Royales. They have all the draft games, and you can find that in the description and the comment section down below. And as of right now, I believe you also get $100, not just $50, when you play $5 on the app using promo code RON. So make sure you check that out during the football season here. Now, how the rookie receiver report works, if you are new here, we have every player, their team. We have the route percentage, so how often are they running a route on pass plays? That's just, are you involved in the passing game over the last 3 weeks? Targets per out run, your volume per route. Anything over 20% is solid. Yards per out run, are you efficient on a per out basis? Anything over 2 is solid. First downs per out run, are you moving the chains, not just creating big plays? Anything over 10% is really solid. And then a PFF grade, Still a little iffy on PFF grade this year, but in the past, 80 plus has been the indicator for rookie receivers. Now, let's start with Ibuka, who we were just talking about, where he's taken a little bit of a skid, but I can't stress enough, like, I'm not really stressed about it at all. Like, his per out numbers are still amazing. 23% targets per out run is the best on this list that we could, like, of like the top guys, you know what I mean? Of the guys running 50% or more of the routes, he leads them all in targets per out run, which if you remember, we go back to like week 3, that was his biggest issue. He's putting up Randy Moss stat lines. He's not commanding enough targets. Well, in this game, he hits a 35% target share, which was a season high. Now, it didn't come in the beautiful package where the volume then gave you big production, but sometimes they don't both match up, which has kind of been the issue for Ibuka, that we've had some really nice efficiency games. We've had some really nice volume games, but we haven't gotten like a 12 target, 10 catch, 175 yards, and 2 touchdown game. I might be misspeaking there. Like, I do want to double check the game logs, but I don't think we've had a game like that. Maybe just one like that so far. Yeah, and I guess you could call Seattle 7 targets, 7 catches, 163 yards, and a touchdown, but that's still like monster efficiency. That is 23 yards per reception there, where over the last 3 weeks, he's now at 4.4, 9.8, 6.5 in terms of production. Over the last 2 weeks, last week he set a season high 12 targets. This week he set a season high 35% target share. The volume's coming in. I would just say that the expectation, if you guys remember, after week 6 is that he was going to sit out for week 7, week 8, bye week, come back because he had a hamstring injury. He's kind of rushed past that. I think it's been affecting his play. He clearly hasn't been the same guy, but still there was some touchdown opportunities where like maybe Baker missed him here and there. What I'm trying to say is I'm not worried, and I think if he's at like 15, 16 points per game right now, I think after the bye week he'll be more of like an 18 point per game guy, as still a fringe top 6 wide receiver moving forward. So I'm really not worried. If anybody out there is worried, I would be buying Emeka Egbuka. Then we will talk about Tet McMillan. Now, I do still think that a jump can happen here, where he's at like 12-ish points per game. I think that we could see like 15-ish down the stretch, sort of similar to like what a Brian Thomas Jr. was last year, or a Ladd McConkey. He's running all of the routes. His targets per out run is amazing. His first downs per out run, when you consider how bad this offense is, the fact that he has the same first downs per out run as Tyler Warren. Remember, Tyler Warren with the Colts, like they are probably leading the NFL in first downs. Tetairoa McMillan, in terms of passing first downs with Bryce Young and Andy Dalton, he's probably accounting, like I would love to look at the stat of how many receiving first downs the Panthers have and how many of them Tetairoa McMillan is accounting for. I would assume my rough guess would be over half. Maybe I don't know if I'm being too aggressive or too conservative with that number, but in this game, he had a season high 43.5% target share, his second highest scoring game of the year for McMillan. I believe he had like 16 PPR points. He had 16.9, 10 targets, 7 catches, 99 yards. Really strong game versus the Bills. It was just tough. Like Andy Dalton, like it's just kind of been the story of McMillan is he's arguably, like you can put him right there with Ibuka per route. Really, his yards per route run isn't great because the offense isn't great. But the fact that his first downs per route run look like this, and his PFF grade took a big jump this week if you want to care about PFF grades. But yeah, no, this is wild. In terms of receiving first downs for the Panthers, this is the leaderboard. Tetairoa McMillan at 31, then Hunter Renfrow at 8, Leggett at 8, Rico Dowdle at 7, Mitchell Evans at 6, Chuba Hubbard at 6. So nobody else even has 10-plus first downs receiving for the Panthers, but Tetairoa McMillan has 30-plus. So that is insanity. And I think that's a really big positive point for McMillan, is that if the Panthers are moving the chains through the air, it's probably via Tetairoa McMillan, which is, it says a lot. It says a lot that he's not just a big play merchant or benefiting from like touchdown randomness. Like he is a real deal receiver. Really the only thing holding him back is the quality of the passing offense. But we could talk about next the Titans receivers. You have first Alec Iomanner. He has a 20% target share for the first time in this game. For the first time since week 4. The issue is he still hasn't hit 10-plus PPR points since week 3. The offense is brutal. Alec Iomanner, to me, is a day 3 receiver who's fine, but doesn't have the highest ceiling ever. The other Titans receiver I want to talk about is Chimere Dike. I've been very critical of him, but he keeps on running more routes, right? 66%, 67%, now up to 90% plus. He has a better targets per out run than Io Manor. He has a better yards per out run than Io Manor. Io Manor just slightly edges him out on first downs per out run, and then DK has a better PFF grade. So DK is a real guy, and I do want to apologize. Early on, it looked rough, where he was like a gadget-only player, really inefficient. They've now let him play real wide receiver, and he had 8 targets, 7 catches, 93 yards in this game. That's real deal production, and now has back-to-back weeks of 16-plus PPR points. So Chimere DK, in the same boat as Io Manor, where I don't know that either of these guys ever go to a Pro Bowl or make an All-Pro team, but they're NFL wide receivers running a lot of routes as desperation flex options in fantasy. And that's not a bad outcome for where they were drafted or what their preseason expectations were. Then we can talk about Tez Johnson. The issue with this Bucs game is that they just couldn't really find anything through the air in terms of efficiency versus the Saints. It wasn't pretty. But Tez Johnson over the entire year, he goes up to 96% of the routes with Mike Evans out. And his per out numbers are solid. Like for a day 3 guy, 17% targets per out run, that'll play. 1.59 yards per out run, that's fine. Fine first downs per out run, 70 plus PFF grade. He's somebody where if somebody's going to be a Jalen McMillan or Amon-Ra St. Brown, Tez Johnson is very much in that mix to be a big second half performer. Then we can talk about Oronde Gadsden. This one has been nuts. We have been like people were telling me like don't get over your skis because like Quentin Johnston wasn't in that game. But Gadsden's been amazing. Hope that you guys have picked him up on waivers. It's always nice when you guys are like, oh, the rookie receiver report helped me pick up a guy like Gadsden. So love to see that. He is just, I mean, like I hate to, put such a high expectation on him, but when you look at most PPR points through a tight end's first 6 career games. Now, why Travis Kelce? I don't know why it didn't count Travis Kelce. He must have been like a healthy scratch or something early on. I'm not sure. But through 6 career games, Oronde Gadsden since 2000 is behind only Jordan Reed, Tyler Warren, Kyle Pitts, Brock Bowers, Sam Laporta in PPR points scored. This is a really good list to be a part of as well. Like Hunter Henry stuck around for a while. Aaron Hernandez was really good for a time there. Travis Kelce, of course, Evan Ingram, Harold Fannin in this class, Greg Olsen. Like this is a really strong start. At this point, he is the tight end 6 in points per game with 12.6 points per game on the entire year. And he's the tight end 2 over the last 3 weeks behind only Tucker Kraft. To me, Gadsden's proved it. He is the real deal. He is not some flash in the pan. To me, he is the next, like Darren Waller, George Kittle of like day 3 undrafted guy who just becomes really good. Now, of course, Kittle is like, I meant in terms of fantasy. Kittle is such like a transcendent run blocker that he's like in his own tier of player. But I think Darren Waller is a really, really good comp for Gadsden as this kind of like tweener who's just hyper efficient at receiving, and these per out numbers are amazing. Like 225, best yards per out run across any receiver over 50% of the routes. 9.4% first downs per run is great, and then he's the only guy here at an 80 plus PFF grade. We talk about another tight end here, Mason Taylor. I've been kind of unkind to Mason Taylor, not really all that impressed. I don't think that he has a super high ceiling, but this game, he did look really good, so I'll give him that. He had 8 targets, 5 catches, 34 yards, and a touchdown. He had the game-winning touchdown. He actually was really good in the run-blocking game as well, where I think that he's actually going to be a plus blocker long-term, which is really big for him as like a inline tight end. He's not quite the like freakish mover as a Gadsden where you want him playing in the slot and kind of like working off safeties and stuff. He can play more inline and be a traditional tight end, Mason Taylor, so he looks pretty good. These per-out numbers are bad, but you got to remember when your team is dead last with 156.5 passing yards per game, it's going to be tough to be very efficient on those routes. But Mason Taylor trending up in the right direction. Tyler Warren, my only notes, still the man. He still looks good. There's really nothing to report back. You just need the Colts to be more competitive game scripts for Tyler Warren. Then we can talk about the Texans wide receivers. This one is frustrating. I will say too, side note, I get people, I guess, watch these back on like Tuesday and Wednesday, and I get a lot of questions of like, oh, where's this guy who played in the Monday night game, or where's this guy who's on bye? I don't really think there's any reason to like talk about any of these guys that are on the bye. And then Jalen Lane, we don't get anything until Monday Night Football, so those guys all just kind of get hidden for the time being. But with Jaden Higgins, he was ahead of Jalen Noel on the depth chart, right? So there's no Nico Collins in this game. There is no Christian Kirk in this game. Higgins being ahead of Null, who is only at 45% of the routes, is a big deal for Higgins. Higgins scores a touchdown. The issue is, like, on a per-route basis, Higgins doesn't look that great. He had 8 targets in this game, but only 4 catches, 34 yards. Just not very efficient. His per-route numbers here aren't great, but again, him getting the routes and scoring a touchdown is a big deal. But I do want to highlight Jalen Noel as well, as somebody that has just been really frustrating, where he has been better than Jaden Higgins on a per-route basis. And I'm not even saying to take down Jaden Higgins' routes. We had in this game 38% route share for Braxton Berrios and 36% route share for Jared Wayne. I have a wide receiver model dating back to like 2017. It used to be back to 2007 with every drafted wide receiver. There are very few wide receivers in the NFL that you could say out loud, and I'm like, who the hell is that guy? Jared Wayne is one of those guys. It's just absolutely insane for Noel to be at 45%, Berrios 38%, Jared Wayne 36%. Give all of those routes to Jalen Noel. Get him to 80% plus of the routes. I don't understand. These per route numbers are good, man. 20% plus targets per route run. Flirting with 1.7 yards per route run. 8% first downs per route run. 74 PF grade. Really good across the board. He had 6 targets, 5 catches for 63 yards. So even if you started him off of my recommendation in the Sneaky Snart video, 10 plus PPR points on only 45% of the routes is really good and really strong. I'm looking up because I should have my light on down here, but I forgot to turn it on. But Jalen Noel, just it's so tough because, like, on the bright side, I think he's a good player. In the last 2 weeks, he's looked really good. On the other side is this Texan staff can't get out of its own way, and I can't think of a reason for 36% route share for Jared Wayne. I can't explain the rationale there. So that's where we're at with Jalen Noel. Still a stash. Higgins, fine stash and flex play. God, if Noel was going to get to 70% plus of the routes, it had to be in this game. I don't know how it happens down the line, but we'll see. Then we can talk about Colston Loveland. He finally gets, season high 78% route share, but all he got was 5 targets, 3 catches, 38 yards. And it's so tough because I always post the rookie receiver report. Like, I sometimes get questions of like I was talking about, somebody plays on Monday night. I always post these in the Discord on the Patreon. And somebody was like, well, I don't know if we should write off Colston Loveland. I'm not saying I'm going to write off Colston Loveland, but it has to be better, man. Like, these just aren't good per route stats. And I know that we can look back over time and say, well, it took Travis Kelce some time. It took a lot of these tight ends some time to, like, kind of figure it out and become studs. But I just think in the modern NFL, especially first-round picks, we know it almost right away. Not like right away, but we know most of the time if these guys are good. Right, like Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers, Tyler Warren this year, Oronde Gadsden. It's just this modern era, even with the wide receivers. Like, very rarely do you see, unless if they're later round drafted, right? Like a Trey McBride. He was, I believe, a second-round pick, was stuck behind Zach Ertz, and then eventually he broke out in the second half of his second year, which is all good and well. But a guy like Colston Loveland, we just saw, like, he's no longer, for this little pocket of time with Cole Kmet hurt, he is now not stuck behind Cole Kmet, and he didn't really do anything. He's yet to even cross over 7 PPR points this year. I'm not saying that Colston Loveland isn't good or that he's a bust, but it's looking really shaky. Like, I think in redraft, if you wanted to drop him, you absolutely could. And in Dynasty, you are hoping and praying that things turn around quick here. But these per out numbers are not good. And, we've seen a lot of these guys. Like, he's kind of trending towards your, like, Eric Ebron, OJ Howard, it's just not good. So something has to change quick, or things could get ugly for Colston Loveland. I don't know. This was just a very discouraging game to me. I know the Bears weren't great. I know really only Rome Odunze produced on the team, but we now have a pretty decent sample size, and these per out numbers are just not good enough from Colston Loveland, especially just seeing what we've seen. Like, these are on pace with like Mason Taylor right now. Mason Taylor in a much worse offense. Yeah, Mason Taylor has, in terms of versus Colston Loveland, they're right at 16%. They're right at 1 yards per out run. Mason Taylor's a better first downs per out run, and they're both around 65 PFF grade. For the guy that was drafted 10th overall and had a lot of promise, like, this is just a really, really bad start for Colston Loveland. Similar deal with Matthew Golden. He didn't command targets in college. I got into arguments last week on Twitter because people were saying, well, imagine what Matthew Golden could do with Emeka Egbuka's target share. And it's just not how it works. Emeka Egbuka, 23% targets per out run guy. That's just not what Matthew Golden is. It's not what he was dating back to Texas. 14.9% targets per out run. That controls for your route percentage, all of that. He's just not a target earner, man. He had 3 catches in this game, 4 yards, and I think that his routes are going to stay below 80% with Christian Watson back, with Jaden Reed potentially back in the mix later on, with Wicks getting healthier. LaFleur loves to rotate these wide receivers, and Golden needed to show that he was a real difference maker before Watson got healthy. Like the 82%, like right after the bye, that was the window, and he just couldn't show that he was a difference maker. Like, these are very pedestrian rookie year stats. I think like realistic range of outcomes for him are guys who don't command a lot of targets but are pretty efficient. Like, if you want to talk about a Jameson Williams isn't a bad comp for him in terms of like ceiling outcome. Golden, I feel rough about. Like, I don't know that you can start him with much confidence in redraft and in dynasty. The clock's really ticking on him to show something here as a first round pick. Then we have Harold Fannin. This one's much better. It really sucks that he's held back by this quarterback play, but even with David Njoku, he runs over 70% of the routes. He's commanding a ton of targets, and he's showing, like, remember Mason Taylor, like, they're in very similar spots right now, but Fannin is like actually being more efficient across the board. Despite Dylan Gabriel, he had 8 targets, 6 catches, 62 yards, and a touchdown in this game. I think if his quarterback was better, right, if he had a Justin Herbert or if he had a Daniel Jones, as funny as it is to say, I think Harold Fannin would be looked at in a very similar light to both Tyler Warren and Gadsden at this point in time. Then we can talk about Luther Burden. Really not much to say. His routes go down to 12%, but it's because he got a concussion in this game. But also that's now a kind of a road bump here where we really need him to start ascending if we want that week 9 plus, like Luther Burden went crazy. Him not getting a concussion if he misses another game, like, it's just a setback on that entire timeline. So really not good for Luther Burden. And then we can also talk about kind of the rest here, like the grab bag. Pat Bryant hits career highs in yards with 40, PPR points with 12. He scores a touchdown. Over 50% of the routes again, really just because Marvin Mims got banged up. You have Isaiah Bond here, who's trending down 90%, 61%, 51%. It's pretty much over for Isaiah Bond being a difference maker at the next level. Arian Smith, once again, a waste of a NFL jersey, but even the Jets without Garrett Wilson out there are quickly understanding that they really screwed this pick up. Look, these are beat red across the board, the worst. This should be 0% at this point. He had I think he had 1 catch on the final drive. Like, good for you, Arian Smith, but man, not good at all. I will say Trey Harris has been rotating in even with Quentin Johnston back around a third of the routes. And Mitchell Evans gets nuked to 9% of the routes with Jalen Coker back in the mix. But if you ask me, I think that these routes shouldn't come from Mitchell Evans. They should come from Xavier Legette. And the Panthers should run more heavy personnel with Mitchell Evans, Tommy Tremble, JT Sanders, and get away from Legette. But that is just my rant about how things should be run on that team. Now, moving away from that, we go to our second takeaway, which is the route watch. This is where I just simply kind of look at route shares that I thought were interesting around the league. We have Jalen Coker kind of on the back of that Mitchell Evans stuff trending up here. He goes from 47% of the routes to 76% of the routes. That is directly off the back of Mitchell Evans. But with Andy Dalton and this passing game struggling, he's not really startable just yet. Then we have Troy Franklin having one of his best games of the season. Actually, I believe his best game of the season in terms of PPR points. He had 23.9 PPR points in this game. He runs 87% of the routes, his highest since week 3. But it's worth mentioning, it was really like the main culprit here is the Marvin Mims injury. Marvin Mims, I believe, gets a concussion in this game. I believe it was a concussion. So I wouldn't expect this to stick for Troy Franklin, but I would expect it to stick in any game that Mims isn't in. I will say this is a big news as well. You guys let me know if I'm missing a Patriots injury, but I don't think I am. I think most of the Patriots were healthy in this game, and Kayshon Boutte sets not only a season high in route share, 91%, but as far as I can tell, he is the first Patriots receiver this year that hit 90% plus of the routes, making him an actual, like, real flex play moving forward, where he's now been the wide receiver 4, wide receiver 21, and wide receiver 9 over his last 3 games. So Booty gets a huge bump. I will say Noah Fant is droppable here, where now we can see with Tanner Hudson back. At first, I thought because Mike Gesicki was hurt that Noah Fant would be startable, but Tanner Hudson was actually hurt in week 7. Noah Fant runs 76% of the routes. He scores 12.4 PPR points, looking like a fine start moving forward. Tanner Hudson back in the mix, and it nukes Noah Fant back down to 42% of the routes. That just isn't going to cut it. And I will say, too, these graphics that I'm showing here are the utilization report tab over on myfantasylife.com. And then our last one here is just these Packers routes we were talking about with Matthew Golden, but Christian Watson returns here for 65% of the routes. He scores 12.5 PPR points, makes a really clutch play downfield. And for a guy who tore his ACL in Week 18, he looks good. He's definitely going to be somebody we talk about in the waiver wire show. I'd probably want to wait until he can scale these routes up, but like I said, this is just not good news at all for Matthew Golden. I have to assume that Wicks and Jaden Reed will be back before the end of the season as well, so it's going to be really tough for him to actually make a real impact. Now, feeding off the back of that, our third takeaway is going to be Tucker Kraft. I just have written down Tucker Kraft, the man that you are, the new tight end 1 in points per game. We have a bunch of stats here. Really, really good player. I wish I was more into him. I have him on enough teams. Like I have him on my the Basement Invitational, the Patreon League. I have him on a main event team that I'm really pumped about on the FFPC. So I have enough of him. I didn't really get any of them in best ball, but I kind of tried to make up for that with my managed leagues. But I wish I was more into him because it's so obvious looking back that like what not spooked me off of Kraft, but I was so in on Jaden Reed that I was just like, okay, Jaden Reed is going to be the number one option. But with Jaden Reed hurt, it's just so clear that in a room of Romeo Doubs and Matthew Golden and banged up Christian Watson, whoever else, that Tucker Kraft was going to be the main guy in this passing offense. And just like his progression has been so great, where at first he was behind Luke Musgrave, Musgrave was actually drafted higher, Kraft was drafted later on, and now Kraft has kind of flipped the script here. You can see in terms of his red zone target share, in year 2, he's at 21%. This year, he's at 36%, only behind Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devontae Adams, and Trey McBride. And only Amon-Ra St. Brown and Dallas Goedert have more red zone touchdowns than Tucker Kraft. You can then see this one, where if we look at his yards after catch per reception, that's really where he kills you, which is crazy because he's not – it's not that he's a bad athlete, but he didn't come out as like this size speed specimen. Like I'll check here. He ran a 4.69 at 254 pounds, which like it's good. It's good, but it's not it wasn't insanity. Like it was solid, but he definitely wasn't seen as like a Kyle Pitts, Vernon Davis. Like you can kind of go down the list of like crazy speed score guys. I think he was pretty good in terms of speed score. I do want to make sure I'm not talking on my ass. Like if I look at his speed score, what is the percentile for Tucker Kraft? 82nd percentile. Okay, so maybe I am talking a little bit out of my ass. He's a pretty good athlete, but he was more like an 80th percentile athlete than like some superhuman. But what he's doing after the catch is just amazing. Like he's doing George Kittle stuff after the catch. Where if we look at Kittle, I think Kittle had to have been a better athlete, right? 4.69. Yeah, Kittle runs a 4.52 with a 96th percentile speed score. So you know what I mean? Like that's another level. 4.69 speed versus 4.52 for two tight ends who are both 245 pounds. Now, of course, Kittle is an alien in his own right. I'm just saying for Kraft to be this kind of an alien after the catch is outside of what you would expect for his athleticism profile. But we've been seeing a lot of that. Like I think Jake Ferguson even has kind of outshined what we would have thought of him athletically, which I only mentioned, like the combine stuff really matters the most for tight ends. Like most of the guys who are amazing, like Gronk, Kelsey, Kittle of the last 10 years, Jimmy Graham, are combine warriors or were just otherworldly athletes in basketball, like Antonio Gates and Jimmy Graham and all of those guys. So just, I don't know, I'm kind of talking my ass here, but you get what I'm saying. But yards at the catch per reception, year 1, 7.5 to 9.1 to 11.2. If you look at over the first 2 seasons, he's up there with George Kittle as the only 2 guys with 8.5 or better yards after catch per reception. That's really exciting for him, just like creating his own efficiency after the catch. He had 128 yards after the catch in week 8, third most of any tight end in any regular season game during the time that Jacob Gibbs has the data dating back to 2006. The other names up there are Travis Kelce, George Kittle, Dallas Goedert, and Rob Gronkowski. Yeah, that's going to play. He's a tight end 1 in points per game. Just wanted to glaze Tucker Kraft here. He has a great role. He's a great player, great offense. Like he is a top 3 guy rest of way for me. And then I'll also add just kind of a note on the Steelers offense. Or the Steelers defense. This is not your father's Steelers defense or the Iron Curtain or whatever you want to call it. Fantasy quarterbacks against the Steelers this year from the Fantasy Footballers. Fields was the QB3. Darnold only QB 21, but Drake May QB 7, Wentz QB 7, Joe Flacco QB4, Jordan Love QB1, and they've allowed season-high passing yards to 4 consecutive quarterbacks over the last 4 weeks. Really tough. Like, they are somebody that it's crazy. Like, this may be the first time in my lifetime I can remember a time where, like, if the Steelers are matching up against player X in fantasy, it's probably a good thing. Then our fourth takeaway is Saquon Barkley is back. Now, I know that he got banged up in this game, but the Eagles have a bye week. I have to assume they go into the bye week, they come out of it, and Saquon's fine, but he had 2 of the top 10 ball carrier speeds of the entire year just on Sunday, which to me is a huge positive indicator for Saquon, who really relies on his long speed when it comes to these huge chunk gains. 21.87 miles per hour on a 28-yard rush, and then 21.68 miles per hour on his 65-yard rushing touchdown. Both, again, top 10 numbers across all players carrying the football this year. And I will add as well, Tank Bigsby, I think, is going to be the main handcuff moving forward. So if you have Will Shipley, you can drop Will Shipley, you can drop A.J. Dillon. Tank Bigsby gets 9 carries, 104 yards in this game. I think that's going to solidify him as the handcuff moving forward, and somebody to definitely grab off of waivers this week. Now, after that, we are going to get into the rookie running back carousel. Just like we talked about with the wide receivers, if players are going to break out or be monsters on the stretch, this is where it's going to happen. This is where Bucky Irving broke out last year. This is where, if you remember, rookie Nick Chubb broke out around this time. I'm trying to think of some other ones. JT, Jonathan Taylor. If you remember, if you in your mind's eye go back to 2020 or 2021, whichever year he was a rookie, or actually it says it right here, it was 2020. He was so bad through the first like 10 or so games that people were like, he's a bust, he's awful, he's this and that. And then he became like one of the best league winners that year. Where, what are we in right now? Week 8. So right now in 2020, week 8, he comes off of the bye at Detroit and gets a 33% snap share and 5.1 PPR points. The tide didn't turn until week 13. So that's kind of the sobering part, is that for some of these guys, like, and that's kind of what I'm thinking about when it comes to like a guy like Trevion Henderson, is I don't know that we'll be able to start him maybe even after like the Patriots bye week in week 14, like, and feel great about it, which sucks. But it is kind of this thing of like patience. David Johnson, his rookie year, was another one where he wasn't even startable early on, and then he was a monster down the stretch. So just something to keep in mind right now as we talk about these rookie running backs. Now let's get into the rookie running back carousel. Very similar to the rookie receiver report. We have their snap shares, their points per game, their PPR per touch, and their PFF grade. This is the world famous rookie running back carousel, not sponsored by Underdog. It really is sponsored by Underdog, but it's also just sponsored by the channel. If you tune into these every single week looking for my rookie content, subscribe, leave a like, tell a friend. It helps out the channel a ton, especially in these months where, you know, the growth isn't up and to the right. These months we're doing it for the love of the game, but these are some of my favorite videos to make. Let's talk about it here. First, we'll talk about Cam Scatterbo. Pour one out for Scatterbo. Really sad. He was one of our biggest hits this year. Obviously, I think that I think the main thing should just be like the injury sucks. I feel bad for him. But this video is for fantasy. If you have him out there, it's gonna suck. He looked like a league winner. He looked like I remember I talked him up all summer long. People would be like, "Why do you even like Scatterbo? Like, he's not even that good." Tyrone Tracy's the number one, and Scatterbo was like the perfect fantasy running back in terms of goal line, receiving, chunk gains. Like, that's what he was. That's what he was looking like. He was going to be a league winner. He gets hurt. It sucks. Injuries in this game absolutely suck, but that's what it is. In terms of kind of reconciling with that, we have this from Ryan Heath. Tyrone Tracy, now somebody that's going to be in the RB2 mix moving forward. After Scatterbo left this game, Tyrone Tracy had 7 of 9 carries, including the only one inside the 10-yard line, 11.8% target share as a fringe top 24 running back rest of season, and I would agree with that. Now, in terms of the rest of these guys, we have Dylan Sampson we can talk about. Really, the only reason he gets bumped up to 46% of the snaps is because Judkins gets hurt. It looks like Judkins should be back after the Week 10 bye week for the Browns. Kind of got very lucky there. But if you do want to kind of see what Judkins or what Sampson was looking like in this game, we have this tweet from Ryan Heath. The Browns backfield after Quinshon Judkins left the game with a shoulder injury. Sampson had 3 of 3 backfield carries, 6 targets, whereas Jerome Ford had just 1 target. So it's a really shitty thing that Jerome Ford has this role right now where he is the like undisputed third down back. So when Judkins is healthy, Sampson gets relegated to nothing. But if Judkins gets hurt, Sampson then leapfrogs Jerome Ford. You would just love this to be a 1-2 punch of Sampson and Judkins. Who knows why that isn't the case, but here we are. Now, I think Judkins just gets healthy through this bye week and things go back to normal, but Dylan Sampson definitely worth a stash off of waivers. Then we can talk about Devin Neal here. He's the next guy. 46% of the snaps, but it's a fraudulent 46% snap share. 20 of his 32 snaps came in the fourth quarter. He had no rush attempts. All he had was 3 catches for 11 yards. I think Kamara left this game early as well. Could Kamara be banged up? Could Kamara get traded? Probably not, but that's really all there is for Devin Neal. I wouldn't go crazy about Devin Neal. You have Kyle Monangai. DeAndre Swift has been banged up, but this was a tough game script to really run the ball for the Bears where they were trailing the Ravens the entire game, so Monangai didn't really do anything spectacular this week. Woody Marks, I thought this was going to be the takeover. It's good because he still gets 15 touches here. He still gets 15.1 PPR points. He's still absolutely fine if you started him, but God, we're playing roulette every single week with Woody Marks. He goes from 61% of the snaps to 41%. And not just that, Nick Chubb was only at 43%. Nick Chubb gets 19 opportunities in this game, 43% of the snaps. Marks gets 41% of the snaps, 15 opportunities. The thing that I can't wrap my head around is 16% of the snaps for Ogunbowale, fine. But there's 15% of the snaps for this guy named Brooks. I don't even know his last name. I don't even know the Texans' last name, this Brooks guy. Or his first name, my bad. But you get what I'm saying. There was just a really weird split. He had no touches, but he did eat into the snap share. There's a decent chance, though, that the Texans did just absolutely handle the Niners. Maybe this guy came in, late in the game, but I don't know. Just a weird split. I will say Woody Marks in this game, 11 carries, 62 yards, 5.6 yards per carry, and a 23-yard long rush to Nick Chubb's 3.3 yards per carry and a long of 9 yards. I don't know why Nick Chubb gets more carries than Woody Marks in this one, but it is what it is. Woody Marks also had a 50-yard catch, so he's really explosive. He's good. It just comes down to how many touches these guys want to give him in a given game. I think things are going to continue to slant towards Woody Marks, but he's certainly, you have to hold your breath when you start him because there's just a chance that things go poorly, the game script goes bad, and he ends up with a 40% snap share and 8 touches. Then we can talk about Ollie Gordon. Ollie Gordon had a good day, right? 10 carries, 46 yards rushing, 1 catch, 20 yards, and a touchdown, but it was really just a game script thing. He still just had 30% of the snaps, which resulted in a lot more snaps because the Dolphins kept on getting first downs, sustaining drives, holding the ball while the Falcons just struggled the entire time. So unless if you think the Dolphins can do this again, Ollie Gordon is just kind of what he was before this. Then we can talk about RJ Harvey. Super efficient, 1.28 PPR per touch. He had 3 touchdowns on his same role of 28% of the snaps, but it's just not going to cut it. 1 quarter of the snaps is not going to cut it as a weekly starter. If you drafted him in best ball and stuff, this was a great week, but man, it is really frustrating with these guys. I'm trying to think back to what we just talked about with Jonathan Taylor and some of these guys, maybe RJ Harvey can emerge or, Dobbins gets hurt or there's just a million different scenarios, but I wouldn't look at RJ Harvey's 3 touchdowns in this game and be like, yeah, I'm going to start him next week is what I'm trying to say. It's just more of the same. It's the same exact role. He just ended up scoring more touchdowns. He had 7 carries, 46 yards. That's a great yards per carry. He's been good in the receiving game. I will say, though, 7 carries for him is his second most of the season, so we'll see where this thing goes. For RJ Harvey, it's just a really weird role to wrap your head around. You still had too many Beatty snaps as well. It's just tough. Similar deal with TreVeyon Henderson. He actually looked good in this game. He looked good. He had some long runs. He had some chunk gains. Finally, he looked like the guy who they drafted. 10 carries, 75 rushing yards. But here's the thing. A lot of those yards came on the outside stuff. Between the tackles, he was bad. Between the tackles, he actually fumbles in this game. And he hasn't had a catch since week 6. The whole appeal of Henderson was the outside carries, right? Maybe 5 to 10 carries outside in space. And then he would be the passing down back, getting 4 to 5 targets a game. Well, now he's in this role of only getting the carries, but then he fumbles in this game. It's just you go one step forward, one step back with this guy. And I would love to take a victory lap and feel better, right? The snap share goes up. He finally looks explosive, but then he fumbles. He doesn't catch a football. So I don't know. He's still not somebody I'm trying to start. He's still just purely a stash moving forward. And then the last guy I'll have a note on here is just DJ Giddens. Tyler Goodson comes back for the Colts. DJ Giddens gets relegated to a healthy scratch, and now DJ Giddens can get dropped. He initially was like the one-for-one handcuff to Jonathan Taylor. They've then introduced Amir Abdullah into the mix, Tyler Goodson into the mix, pretty much doing anything they can to not have to rely on DJ Giddens as their handcuff or really in any situation, and now he's kind of just relegated into obscurity. But we can then talk about some of these messy backfields, our sixth takeaway here, where we're just going to look around the league at some of the backfields that are in a split. First up, we have Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard. This one just continues to kind of yo-yo back and forth, where if we look at the utilization report here from Fantasy Life, you can look at 60% to 40% in week 6, then 41 to 60% in favor of Tony Pollard in week 7, then back to like a 50-50 split over this past week. But Tyjae Spears is more efficient, and he gets 15.7 PPR points, and he gets the inside the 5 rush attempts along with the 2-minute drill stuff. So the roles aren't really sticking for either of these guys. I'm pretty shocked that the goal line back was Tyjae Spears in this game, but you can't really start either with any confidence moving forward. Yeah, like I wish I could say something where you could put either into a lineup, but it's just not enough touches. The offense isn't good enough, and the roles aren't consistent enough. So both really tough. Then you have the Panthers. Unfathomable. I get that Hubbard signed the extension. I get that Hubbard is like a captain of this team, but to go away from Rico Dowdle after you finally started winning games on the back of Rico Dowdle, when Rico Dowdle, if you look at the stats here from Zach Eason, 150 total yards on less total opportunities than Chuba Hubbard, having 89 total yards on more opportunities. It's going to be tough, but it's just kind of the way things go in terms of the pecking order. It's going to be a really nasty 50-50 split, really more Rico Dowdle on merit, Chuba Hubbard on seniority is what I would call it, and neither of them are that startable in fantasy, especially with this offense struggling. Then you have the Bengals. I would hold off on going too crazy about Chase Brown after getting 24 PPR points in this game. 1, the Jets' defense sucks, and 2, his role hasn't been great. Hanging around just like 50% of the snaps in 2 out of his last 3 games. Really, he relied more on a bad defense in this game, and I believe he scores a touchdown as well. Yeah, he scores 2 touchdowns in this game, despite only 15 touches. In this game script against this defense, you'd want more than that. He's somebody I think I would be looking to sell high if that's on the table. Then we can talk about the Vikings with Aaron Jones back in the mix on that Thursday night game. A really tough one for Jordan Mason. I don't suspect that you'll see as much Aaron Jones, and I think even Xavier Scott played a good bit in this game because they were trailing for most of the game. But this is going to go back to, I think, like a 50-50 split here where Jordan Mason was like a shoe-in back-end RB2 to now I think Aaron Jones and Jordan Mason are both RB3s. You're hoping and praying for a touchdown here. You can see neither of them hit 5 PPR points, and Aaron Jones already hit 50% of the snaps in his first game back. Then we have the Bucs here. Just kind of highlighting that I think after the bye week anyways, we're going to see Bucky Irving back in the mix, but just highlighting that this was a Sean Tucker, like pretty much the first game that he's actually been featured where he had 41% of the rush attempts in this game. This was the first time Rachaad White was like below 50% of the rush attempts in a game without Bucky Irving this year. Sean Tucker scored a touchdown. Yes, it was a little bit of a blowout versus the Saints, but Tucker's touchdown was to go up 14-3 in this game. So he got usage before the game was out of hand. Then we can talk about the Steelers backfield, really just Jaylen Warren here. Packers defense is really good. He didn't score a ton of points in this one, but seeing him still hover around the 65% snap share to like 35% snap share for Kenneth Gainwell split is huge. He should be fine moving forward. My 7th takeaway is Rome Odunze first read share, where we looked at this a couple weeks ago, where his first read share, so that's just like him being the first read in a given pass play, it was way up through the first 4 games. 2 games after the bye, it went way down. I then followed up Jacob Gibbs' tweet here saying that in week 8, Rome Odunze got back up to a 28% first read share, which is absolutely huge. We got another tweet from Ryan Heath saying that he had a 26.3% target share, his highest since week 2. Odunze kind of back in the mix as a top 15 wide receiver rest of season. In this game, 10 targets, 7 catches, 114 yards. He got you 18 PPR points without a touchdown. Really, really strong stuff. He should be fine moving forward. But we can talk about on the other side of that game, some Ravens notes here as well, where these tight ends, like likely being healthy, like these guys are no longer startable. It sucks. Mark Andrews is a guy that I loved in the preseason, so this has been one of my bigger misses, Mark Andrews. I mean, 58% of the routes is just, or 56% is just unstartable. Since likely returned in week 4, neither of these guys have gone over 7 PPR points. Really, really tough. I will say, though, on the bright side, Zay Flowers has been really good, and I think especially when Lamar Jackson comes back, he's going to be amazing. Ryan Heath has a great tweet here saying that he's now commanded a 24% target share in 6 of his 7 games, 86% of them. He did so in just 65% of the games last year. He's at 29.2% wide receiver 7 on the season, and then once he gets Lamar back, he should really start cooking on this volume. I still feel really good about him after being very high on him in the offseason. Then you have Derrick Henry, 2 touchdowns in this game. He gets a huge bounce back versus Miami. As long as Miami is like not all of a sudden good, which I don't really think they're going to be after beating the Falcons here. But this week was honestly huge for the Ravens' agenda of being competitive, getting back in the mix. Like this, if this was like a week where the Ravens lose and then all of the AFC North wins, it'd be like, look, if they're out of the playoffs, like why even rush Lamar back? But Bengals lose, Steelers lose, Browns lose, Ravens win, and then you get Lamar Jackson hopefully on Thursday night versus the Dolphins here. And then this could be where the Ravens make a run. All of these fantasy pieces go nuts, and things start to really turn around for these Ravens in fantasy. My 8th takeaway is Jonathan Taylor's supremacy, man. He is on an absolute tear. When we look at Best Ball Mania, so over on Underdog, there's a contest, Best Ball Mania. And on average, 2 out of 12 teams advance. That's going to be like a 16.6% advance rate on average. That is what the average player in any given circumstance is going to advance in your league. Jonathan Taylor, if you drafted him, you have a 63% chance of advancing, which is nuts. That is what? 16% times like 5? You're like 5 times more likely to advance a team with Jonathan Taylor versus player X, which is just absolutely nuts. You can look at the advance rate leaderboard here. I pulled up. The next best player is George Pickens at 35.4%, Javonte 34.3%. I got some questions on like who are the league winners right now. These guys would be the leader in the clubhouse in terms of their bang for buck of returning on their draft position. But George Pickens, 35%, Javonte 34%. Pittman has been a stud as well. Kayshon Boutte, we just talked about, now running a ton of routes. Josh Jacobs has been good. Jake Ferguson, JSN, all that and more look really, really good. And then in terms of the Jonathan Taylor thing, he now has 216.6 PPR points through his first 8 games of the year. He is one of 5 running backs that hit 215 plus PPR points through their first 8 games since 2015. CMC went on to be the RB1 overall at 29.5 points per game. Gurley went on to be the RB1 at 26.6 points per game. Kamara went on to be the RB4. Now, I will say 2018 was a weird year. All right, that was Todd Gurley was a monster. Kamara was a monster. I want to say in 2018, that was also Saquon Barkley. You might have had Zeke in the mix. You might have had Melvin Gordon in the mix. It's one of the best running back seasons of like the modern era, like the post like CJ2K style era for running back production. And then Dalvin Cook went on to be the 24.1 point per game RB2 in 2020. And this graphic or like this tweet just kind of shows that like we haven't had a truly special running back season since 2020. And it looks like we're going to have one this year, which is really cool. Last year, Saquon was only at 203.6. So JT's already outpacing Saquon this season. He is probably the most likely candidate to be the RB1 overall in fantasy. But McCaffrey and Bijan are good shouts too, but they just had 2 stinkers this week. We talk about the Cowboys split since Ceedee Lamb's return. Really nothing crazy on this one, but worth mentioning. Just for anybody out there kind of curious on how things split out, receiving yards per game and target shares in the 2 weeks since CeeDee Lamb has returned. Lamb at 92 yards per game, 26% target share. Pickens 80 yards per game, 23% target share. Ferguson the odd man out with 14.5 yards per game and a 12% target share. It's a small sample. Ferguson's still a top 12 tight end, but I do truly believe that the odd man out in this situation will be Jake Ferguson. I think that he's going to be more boom bust as the season goes on. But this was a game versus the Broncos. I wouldn't overreact. I just think it's worth noting how things have shaken out over 2 weeks. And then we will talk about the Jets, the best for last here. Breece Hall explosion. Jets win it. And this is just looking at since Braylon Allen got hurt in week 4, Breece Hall is the RB15 in points per game. His role over those weeks have been pretty decent. His role in this game wasn't even that great, only 57% snap share. But when you are sustaining drives and beating up on the Bengals, good things happen. He had a 50% route share, a high over this stretch, which we will take. He was the RB4 on the week, Breece Hall. Isaiah Davis was the RB10. We can also look at this little blurb here from Zach Rosenblatt and Rich Kamini, where Breece Hall, among running backs this season, 10th in yards per carry, second and third down run conversion percentage, which sounds like a fake stat, I'll be honest, 12th in yards after contact per attempt, second in explosive runs, fourth in first downs. He's on pace for 1,200 rushing yards. Rich Kamini says, to say Breece Hall dominated the fourth quarter would be an understatement. 2 rushing touchdowns and a passing touchdown. Hall is the first non-quarterback since 1950 to have 2 rushing touchdowns and a pass touchdown in the fourth quarter, which is pretty crazy. He had a crazy game. Who knows? I will say, Jets go into the bye week here. Who knows? Is this like the last one for Breece Hall? We'll see if he gets traded. I've held strong the entire time. I just don't think he does get traded, but I do love this from him where he said, if Garrett's not playing, I need the ball at least 20, 25 times. I hate losing, but if we lose, I want it to be on me. I want to go out swinging, and it seems like they have been receptive towards that. He had 20 touchdowns or 20 touches in this game. That's what we are looking for. I will say, too, this was a very feel-good game for the Jets. It's been a rough year. We were 0-7, but it was nice to get a win, especially like in honor of Nick Mangold, who, for me, childhood hero, all-time favorite Jet. So really sad day yesterday, if I'm being honest, but it was good to get a win for him. He seemed like one of the best professionals, one of the only dudes you can look at as a Jet and be like, I am proud to root him on. He is a Jet. He wears it proud through and through. I believe his entire career with the Jets, Ring of Honor, all that. So awful. It seemed like there was a donor in place. Everything was going to be okay, but not. So really sucks. Definitely one of those Sundays where if you have, obviously, if you have family, friends, people who love you, it is important, tell people you care about them, you love them, because you never really know. He is somebody where he was on my like Mount Rushmore of dudes I would have loved to record with or meet. So just a massive bummer. But that's it. Just wanted to kind of say my piece on Nick Mangold because he really was the one of the few Jets that I feel very proud to have rooted on, have watched my entire childhood. Like it was literally him, Darrelle Revis for me growing up. So hate to see that. Somebody that you feel like you could have had gone out, had a drink with and been a good guy. So hate to see that. Do love that the Jets got kind of a win in his spirit. A lot of like weird things in there. I think Breece Hall, his yards per carry was like 7.4 in this game. They played at Cincinnati, like right down the street from where Nick Mangold grew up. So was a tough one, but this is what it's all about. Football brings people together. It is the ultimate medicine and healer. So I hope all your fantasy teams are doing well. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. As always, if you enjoyed, leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and I will see you guys in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, oh, oh.